Hi, I'm Brianna.
And I'm Akira.
And you're watching
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Oscar, you said you hope Keith Thurman is not the next Golovkin, so I have to ask you, who do you think is better out of the two? Thurman or Golovkin?
Thurman.
Okay.
Is better? Yeah, Thurman.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Thurman. Thurman is... See, one thing about Golovkin, he's tough. He's a strong fighter. When Canelo was sparring with him up in Big Bear, Canelo mentioned, look, he's strong. He's very strong. It's, a lot of fighters are strong. And there's ways of beating strong fighters. But one thing about Keith Thurman is that he knows how to move. He lateral, uses combinations. He thinks in the ring. He's like, Golovkin is a fighter who has to beat you with his power. He has to. He can't beat you with moving side to side or going back. See, one thing about Golovkin is that I learned, because I've studied him, is that if he moves back, he can't fight. He can't fight. He can't.
But Golovkin wasn't at his best. This was not a sharp effort in particular by Golovkin.
It was a lot of arm punches by Triple G. It was a lot of sucking air in, and I didn't see the snap on his punches. I seen him following more than cutting the ring off and actually throwing punches, with meaning to it, to the body and to the head. Tonight was a night I think he was vulnerable than any fight that ever watched him.
I thought he was vulnerable too, particularly if Brook could have been more precise with his counter punches.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? It's pretty interesting when you think about the fact that interview or that clip that I just played for you guys with Oscar De La Hoya, that interview was conducted almost 2 years ago, at least a year and a half ago. And you fast forward to present day and you see Gennady Golovkin perform against Kell Brook, and you see some of the things that Oscar De La Hoya was talking about almost 2 years ago, before the average person could see these things. I have been telling you guys about certain things like this as well for quite some time. So after the Kell Brook fight, Oscar De La Hoya, he had a lot more to say about Gennady Golovkin's performance. Let me go ahead and quote exactly what he had to say. Quote, "I was actually surprised what Kell Brook brought to the table. I was shocked by the damage he inflicted on Triple G. I didn't expect that. You have a small welterweight who was hurting a full-blown middleweight. It's happened before, but I didn't expect it from Kell Brook. He did a great job, Kell Brook. He has a lot of heart. He'll fight another day. It was exciting to watch. I was actually entertained." Then Oscar went on to say, Kell Brook did a tremendous job against Triple G. He gave him a little movement. He has skill, Kell Brook. And guess what? Kell Brook is probably the first fighter that Triple G fought who has skills, and he gave him trouble. I strongly feel that when Canelo fights him, it's going to be one heck of a fight. End quote. Let me say this, and I'll use Deontay Wilder as an example because I have criticized Deontay Wilder for what I thought was some of his flaws in the past. Even when Deontay Wilder got first round knockouts, like when he knocked out Sergey Lakovich, I still criticized his performance. And the video is still up on my channel, so you guys can see that I practice what I preach, okay? Now, with that being said, let's just say, hypothetically, Deontay Wilder, after he knocked out Spilka, if I told you guys I seen a lot of flaws in Deontay Wilder's performance, I seen, him off balance at times, I seen things that other fighters can take advantage of if he doesn't fix these flaws. If I were to tell you that, would you say to me, Dante, get the hell out of here? You're just biased, etc., because the bottom line is, if Deontay Wilder was so flawed, how come he got the knockout and he had Spilka laid out on a stretcher looking like he was dead. Would you say that to me? If I told you that Deontay Wilder showed flaws in that Spilka performance? No, you wouldn't say that, right? Why wouldn't you say that? Because Deontay Wilder is on the coincidental list. And Gennady Golovkin, on the other hand, he's on the hope list. So he has his hope insurance. And one of the many things that hope insurance covers is criticism. You see, when you have that type of coverage, you are above criticism. This is why fighters on a coincidental list, they could really use some of that hope insurance. You feel me? But you know what? Let me go back to that word vulnerability. I think a lot of decafs, dumb casual ass fans, they definitely show their ignorance when they say ridiculous stuff like, how did he show vulnerabilities when he knocked the guy out, when he broke Kell Brook's eye socket, etc., etc. Do you guys even know what the definition of vulnerable is? The definition of vulnerability is the quality of easily being attacked or hurt. That's the definition. So in other words, if you get hit a lot, you are showing a vulnerability. For example, when Tim Bradley fought Ruslan Provodnikov, Tim Bradley looked very vulnerable in that fight. In fact, that was the reason why Juan Manuel Marquez took the Tim Bradley fight. Because before the Provodnikov fight, Tim Bradley, he was calling out Marquez, and Marquez's trainer, Nacho Beristain, they're like, we're not gonna fight this guy. This guy is this and he's that, and we're not gonna fight him at all. Soon as Bradley looked vulnerable in the Ruslan Provodnikov fight, then they decided to fight him. So my point is, showing flaws, being vulnerable, it has nothing to do with winning or losing. I just told you guys, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not making it up when I say this, but one more time. I have a video that I did where I criticized Deontay Wilder's performance knocking out Sergey Lakovich in the first round. But once again, because Wilder doesn't have his hope insurance, there were no fans saying, hey man, how could you criticize a first round knockout? Are you serious, etc., etc.? They didn't say that about Deontay Wilder. In fact, it was quite the contrary. Because whenever Deontay Wilder gets knockouts, that's the first thing they mention is either he's a flawed fighter or, you know, he's not fighting anyone, he's fighting bums. Even though Deontay Wilder, he beat Bermane Stiverne, which was a 50-50 fight, and I can't recall the last time Golovkin was ever in a 50-50 fight where the guy was just as strong as he was just as big as he was naturally. I can't recall Golovkin ever been in that situation, right? But yet they still will criticize Deontay Wilder and say he doesn't fight anyone, you know, he's sloppy, he's this and he's that. Something else I want to distinguish when it comes to the two, Deontay Wilder versus Golovkin, because we know what they have in common. What they have in common is both Wilder and Golovkin are very exciting. They both get vicious knockouts. They both have two of the highest knockout ratios in the sport of boxing. Matter of fact, Deontay Wilder's knockout ratio, is higher than Gennady Golovkin's, right? But the difference from Golovkin and Deontay Wilder, or at least one of the differences is, no one is comparing Deontay Wilder to Muhammad Ali. No one's comparing Deontay Wilder to Marvin Hagler. No one is saying that Deontay Wilder is pound for pound, number one, number two, number three, the best fighter in the world. But they are saying these things about Gennady Golovkin. The reason why I brought that comparison up is because I wanted you guys to understand this is the reason why you have so many people that are criticizing Gennady Golovkin as opposed to any other fighter in the sport because of the pedestal that some of the decafs have put Gennady Golovkin on. If you're going to say this guy is pound for pound number one, if you're going to say this guy is better than Marvin Hagler, if you're going to say he's pound for pound one of the greatest fighters in the last 25 years like ESPN did, if you're going to say all of these things, well, guess what? You're going to have to get in that ring and you're going to have to prove that you are the fighter that these decafs are telling the public you are. You guys understand that? Listen, there is no doubt about it. Gennady Golovkin is a very, very good fighter. And there's no doubt about it, he is already going to be a Hall of Famer. Okay? But with that being said, we have to be honest. Even though he's the best middleweight in the world right now, how does Gennady Golovkin respond to a fighter that is very skilled, like Oscar De La Hoya just said? You heard Oscar De La Hoya, he said the first time Gennady Golovkin faces a guy who has some real skill, he struggles. This is pretty much what Oscar De La Hoya said. But the problem was, it was a welterweight. It wasn't a middleweight. And what's so crazy about that welterweight that Golovkin just faced, we know that the welterweight division is far more stacked than the middleweight division. In fact, I think all of us would agree that if Gennady Golovkin was a natural welterweight, he would not be looked at as the best welterweight in the division. Think about it. With fighters like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, even Sean Porter would be a great matchup against a style like Gennady Golovkin's. You have to remember, in the welterweight division, guys, everyone has really good power. Golovkin would not be the only guy in the welterweight division with that type of power that he has in the middleweight division. Keith Thurman has tremendous power. Errol Spence has tremendous power. Sean Porter has tremendous power. Danny Garcia even has good power, right? And we already know Kell Brook has tremendous power because we've seen what he did after moving up 2 weight classes to face Gennady Golovkin. But on top of these welterweights all being able to match Golovkin's power if they were all in the same weight class, they all have a tremendous skill set. They all have the type of athleticism that Gennady Golovkin was not used to facing. You heard Oscar De La Hoya say it a long time ago. He said it with no hesitation. Who's better, Keith Thurman or Golovkin? Oh, Keith Thurman is much better. This is what he said. And when he makes the comparison, he's making it the same way I just made the comparison. If they were in the same weight class, if they were the same natural weight, right? Not who's better, welterweight Keith Thurman versus middleweight Gennady Golovkin. And even that fight would be extremely competitive if it were that. But anyway, with all that being said, you know, this whole situation, the Golovkin situation today, it reminds me so much of the Nonito Donaire situation all over again before Donaire lost to Guillermo Rigondeaux. It reminds me of that situation because this is when Donaire was considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. But if you look at all of Donaire's performances leading up to the Rigo fight, his performances against Wilfredo Vasquez, where he got a split decision, his face was all busted up, and Wilfredo Vasquez had just got knocked out by Jorge Arce before that fight. When Donaire fought against Mathabula, the African fighter, when Donaire fought against Narvaez, whenever he fought these guys who were not on his level, Nonito Donaire would look very, very exposed in these fights, right? And I would do these videos. I would point out the flaws and I would break it down. And I would tell fans that this man is not going to have a chance against Guillermo Rigondeaux. And once again, I was breaking down the flaws like I'm doing today, like I always do. Now, it's funny because the difference from the Golovkin situation and Donaire is with the Golovkin situation, there are a lot of professional boxers and trainers that corroborating everything that I'm saying. From Paulie Malignaggi to Gabe Rosado to Teddy Atlas to Sergey Kovalev, Ruslan Provodnikov, Caleb Plant, which is one of the best super middleweight prospects today. And the list just goes on and on and on. Julio Cesar Chavez. There are tons of professional boxers, trainers that are saying the same things about Gennady Golovkin that I'm saying. So once again, for the ignorant fans, the decafs that try to play the race card, it doesn't apply. Because the majority of people that are even saying these things when it comes to professional boxers, the majority of them aren't even black. They aren't even black, so you can't even use that excuse. So that's the difference from the Donaire situation. When it came to the Donaire situation, I was one of the only guys that was exposing these flaws when it comes to Nonito Donaire. Not too many other people were pointing them out. And everyone was calling me the same stuff. Oh, you're just racist. Oh, you just hate Filipinos, even though my kids are half Filipino. You know, they say this crazy stuff that makes no sense. You're just hating. You're just hating. And everything that I said about Nonito Donaire, it came to fruition. It was proven to be right. Okay? It was proven to be right. I tell you guys all the time, love without truth is hypocrisy. But truth without love is brutality. That is one of my favorite quotes right there. Because that is exactly what I give you guys. I give you guys truth without love. This is why when you hear a fan say, hey man, stop hating, they want the love with hypocrisy. But you're not going to get it. Because when you sit over here and you tell me that this guy who shows flaws, he's not showing flaws because he got the knockout, that is what you call love without truth. You're basing everything off of how you feel about this person emotionally. The context includes no truth. You ain't gonna never get that from me. You are going to get the whole truth. I don't care how much it hurts your feelings. I don't care how many racist comments you post. I don't care how ignorant you talk. You ain't gonna never stop this truth machine. You have fans that talk about dislikes on the internet and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you guys something. If we live in a country where Colin Kaepernick is hated more than George Zimmerman, who murdered a 17-year-old unarmed teenager, then it's not a surprise that they will dislike a black man who speaks the truth unapologetically. Does that make sense? Now, and I could give you tons of examples when it comes to this topic, but I'll give you just one more before I wrap this video up. If these same fans can hate Al Haymon, a man that has never did a video, he's never did commentary, he's never did an interview. If these decafs can coincidentally dislike Al Haymon more than a Bob Arum, who has said a lot of hypocritical things that wasn't in favor of the boxing fans, what do you think they're gonna say about a person like me? They don't even know Al Heyman, never even heard the man talk, and they hate him. Only thing they know about Al Heyman is that he is black. That's the only thing they know about Al Heyman. And that should tell you everything you need to know. So once again, when it comes to the hate, that's normal. These things are all expected. The reception from a bunch of racist fans is expected. It is not a surprise that they're upset when they hear the truth. I'm gonna go and wrap this video up now, guys. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.